Yo, what's up, D-Bots? Are you ready to eulogize our beloved Dodger Blue baseball team?
You know, after all the news that's been coming out lately with all the who's coming back, who's here, what options, I kind of think I am because I feel like the club's starting to look forward to the next season. And yeah, I think if I was. But I wasn't when obviously the debacle happened. I wouldn't even know if we would call it a debacle, right? It was more like we were running on fumes and there was nothing we could do.
Yes.
It was the train was coming. The train was coming and there was nothing we could do, and it is what it is.
It's so funny, man, the way you say we were running on fumes, and that is totally right. They stumbled out of the gates out of this regular season, and we said this throughout the season watching them. This team is feast or famine when it comes to their offense.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
They started the season with injuries early on, like in the first week when Ballinger went down in that game in Oakland. And then you have Dustin May going down for Tommy John surgery, so he's gone for the year.
Yeah.
Then you have, of course, Edwin Rios going down too. That was a big bat off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was gone for the year early on. So early on, there was a lot of adjustments that had to be made. And it goes back to last offseason when we lost Kike, we lost Jock, and there was really nobody that stepped up to take those at bats, those big at bats that we needed. Clutch. And so it really started early on, and we would say this throughout. Like, our Dodgers are consistently inconsistent, but they still are the quote unquote greatest team ever assembled, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody outside of LA would say about our Dodger team, right? And we couldn't help but get like, man, maybe, yeah, you're right. They are great. They should win the World Series. I mean, at that point, they had a guy named Trevor Bauer on the roster that was doing really well and putting up some Cy Young type caliber numbers.
Yep.
Then obviously what happened with him.
Yeah.
And it's just like this team was, as much as they were destined to do well, they were also destined to not. They were almost cursed at the same time. Yeah. And it had like the sparks of it early on, right, Donald?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's the old saying of whenever you win a title, you have the biggest target on your back for the following season. And it really felt like, even with Slam Diego and everything, it felt like, people wanted to see the Dodgers not go far. And, you wanted to believe as a fan that they were going to overcome, the whole like championship hangover and everything. And like you said, for the most part, it looked good in the beginning. We were solid. Bauer, everybody, was pulling in their weight. I mean, there wasn't much of a slump. The slump started happening when Bauer got in trouble, and then was it Bellinger was hurt, Mookie Betts was hurt, and Mookie being hurt was probably the most glaring to me out of all the injuries that we had, because without Mookie at the lineup, the offense was not the same, and they went through like I forgot what the streak was of losses, but I know for sure they were losing series after
like 8 or 9, I believe.
Yeah, there was like they were losing series after series, and maybe getting one game out of each series from the other team. But yeah, it was really tough to see that going into the All-Star break,
Yeah, and you're right. Mookie going down was huge during the season, and Kim coming back, maybe even not 100% healthy toward the end of the year, and it's just. That's what led to this offense inconsistencies, right? Not having every big bat healthy. And that's part of baseball, though, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody, it happens to everybody. Look at what happened to Atlanta.
Yeah.
World champion Atlanta Braves, by the way.
Exactly.
Shout out to Atlanta Braves. Stop your racist chop, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Braves had injuries as well, but they, power through. That's part of baseball. So we're not making excuses for the Dodgers here. We're not, but you got to look at some of these intangibles that kind of felt like, what is every team going through this craziness, or is it just because it's highlighted and we're supposed to do really well? We're this, best team of look at all these Cy Youngs on the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all these MVPs in the lineup. But yet, how many games were all of them, or how many series did we have all of those MVPs, Cy Youngs out there? I can't think of any series. Can you, Donald?
No. Even with the pitching, once Bauer was out, it was definitely. Dodgers going and getting Scherzer was such a. You could totally tell that was a move to try to save the pitching and mitigate the damage that was to come, because a lot of what happened in that Atlanta series was because we were running on fumes with the arms. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people are blaming Dave Roberts for the way he managed and the fact that he put Urias in kind of situations he didn't need to, and then Scherzer having a tired arm and everything. But that was a big part of the acquisition of Scherzer, was to mitigate all this. And another glaring thing that I don't think was, but then became very glaring as the playoffs run was happening, was just Kershaw being out. I know there were people that like, oh, well, the Dodgers will be great. Kershaw is already on a downhill anyways. Like, but then you kind of now saw during that Brave series why it was pretty important that he was in it, that he was still healthy. So, yeah, man, I can't think of a time where this team was fully healthy with all the guys, all the Cy Young guys, where it felt like a four-headed monster was coming into the postseason, and it just never happened.
Yeah, the Kershaw, it happened, the Kershaw injury, and then the Max Muncy injury happening like 2 weeks before the end. Of course, you had Kershaw going down, the last week of the season, and then Max Muncy going down on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't, how do you go into a postseason with that happening? And to add to that, you had the Dodgers fighting the Giants to try to win the division up until that last game of the year. So that's why Max Muncy was in there. And because they and the Giants were an amazing team to fight off the Dodgers as much as they did, right? Like, to do that, we still don't understand how it happened.
Yeah.
How they held off to win that division.
Yeah. That was it. I guess, going back to it now that we're like reminiscing, even though this is an obit, but we're remembering the good times as well as the bad.
We should.
But, yeah, that was cool seeing the Dodgers and Giants series, and then finally seeing the Dodgers beat the Giants in the postseason. I know a couple of Giants fans, and they were just as nervous as we were in that game 5.
Of course.
It really felt it could have been anyone's game. And yeah, man, but I think that was a really exciting series to watch. That I could rewatch that series all over again. It was very thrilling.
I can't. My nerves can't. Well, maybe now that I know the outcome and all that, maybe I can take it. But that game 5, that was the first baseball game I remember watching where I did not enjoy it. Right? I did not enjoy watching that game. No,
it's the arch rival. It was
way too stressful, man.
It's the arch rival, dude.
But I could not take losing to the arch rival, and it was just could have gone either way.
Yeah.
So I was just like on the edge of my seat, like biting fingernails the entire game, living and dying with every pitch. The way postseason baseball is meant to be watched.
Yes.
But my nerves, man, my freaking nerves could not take it. And even on that last out. On a check swing.
Oh, yeah. Not the way I would have wanted it to end, honestly.
My wife was celebrating when it happened. She's watching it with me. I wasn't. And she's like, why are you not celebrating? Like, why aren't you happy? I'm like, I'm in shock. I can't believe it ended that way. and I hear that it was anticlimactic, whatever. Like, what did you want? Like a walk-off? Of course you wanted to walk off, Giants fans. Dodger fans, we didn't want to walk off. We would have preferred a nice swinging strike out. To do it, that would have been emphatic.
Yeah.
But even the check swing was just very anticlimactic, but very like, really, that's how the season's gonna end.
Yeah.
Like, that's how your destined team to break the Dodgers. What, 8 division titles broken.
Yep.
Because of, and you guys, your season ends on a check swing. Like, that's so terrible, man. But that's baseball. That's baseball.
Dude, it was so wild because I remember reading Twitter and everyone had a different take. You had your people that were like, that's what you get because you guys won the title off the check swing, like you said, right? So there was a lot of kind of like, this is karma, right? And then you had other Dodger fans that were like, oh, this doesn't feel right because it just doesn't feel justifiable. Like people wanted to see Scherzer get the out. That's what they wanted to see, especially because that was Scherzer's moment, you know? And and it just felt like it got kind of, you know, even though he still gets the recorded save and everything, but it doesn't feel like it because the umpire decided, you know, the fate of the whole series. But it was just interesting seeing how everybody had a different take on it. And it was just funny. Of course, Giants fans probably were thinking like, yo, like this is so unfair, like can't believe it. And then there was other people that were like analytical, like the analytical nerds were like, well, you know, it was already 0-2 or something like that. Like, you know, the count was against him, so you know he was gonna get the out or whatever. But it was just so funny seeing the different takes of the outcome. But I'm with you. It was kind of very anticlimactic. I was happy they moved on, but I was like, I was hoping that wasn't the way it was gonna end. But I guess it is what it is. That's postseason baseball, like you said, and it was wild. But that was a wild series compared to Atlanta. You know, Atlanta just felt different.
It did feel different. And even going back to the reason why Max Muncy was playing late at the last game of the season, the Dodgers were still in a dogfight to win that NL West. And because they didn't win the NL West, they had to have that one-game playoff game against St. Louis. And that game, too, was very stressful. We had to have Scherzer go out there, not be his best Scherzer, but still be a good Scherzer, right? Only giving up, 2 runs, I think it was?
Yes.
And over his 5 innings, that's all you could really pitch in the postseason nowadays.
Yeah,
and it's just Taylor, man, Chris Taylor, with the big 2-run home run to walk it off.
Yeah,
and it's just I mean, I know this. We're gonna get into offseason talk just in a little bit, but we got to give props to Chris Taylor, man. And it goes back for me, my Chris Taylor memory. I mean, he's been with the team for a while, but 2017 World Series, Game 1, his leadoff
home run. And on the first pitch, right? Like, dude, I remember that.
So it's like, man, Taylor can't leave the Dodgers. I really don't want him to leave the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But we'll get into
a lot of teams are going to want him, man.
How can you not? Because he comes clutch in the postseason when it matters most.
Yeah. I don't know if I've said that on the pod. I know I've told you where I felt like Chris Taylor, when he's at bat, he looks like the kind of guy that has a plan. Like, I would call him a high IQ hitter. He definitely has a plan. Even when he makes mistakes and, maybe has a bad day where he's just swinging and getting, out, like, down on strikes, like, it only feels like he does it for that moment or that game, and then he bounces back, and then he kind of figures out, a strategy the next time around. Where as other guys, like for example, Jock Peterson, I always felt like when he would go up to bat, I didn't know what his plan was, and he looked like he was just this guy that's like, yo, I just need to hit it. Like I don't even know anything about this pitcher, and then that's why Jock, I think for the most part, even though he won that title with Atlanta, I think that's why the Dodgers were okay with moving on from him, because they were just like, yeah, you have like this clumsy vibe about you when you're at bat, and I don't know how much of that did the Dodgers really like in the long run. So
yeah, I get that, and I think it's what your expressions show. I'm sure Jock is smart enough to have a good approach every time he comes up to bat, and maybe he doesn't make as obvious adjustments as maybe like a Chris Taylor or Justin Turner usually makes. But he hits with power. He likes the long ball, so you kind of know that's what he's going for every time he's up there. He's going to hit it over the wall every time he goes up there. That's what he's trying to do anyway. But going back to that postseason for the Dodgers, so after that wild card game and then of course we finally get the NLDS we wanted with the Giants and Dodgers, and that series, man. And I said this when it started. It's not fair that this NLDS is only a 5-game series.
No.
Especially because it was finally happening between the Dodgers and Giants.
Yeah.
this needs to be a 7-game series. Can we get at least one? Can we get the terrible commissioner that we have over there? I want to say it was Goodell, but I know that's not his name. I totally got him confused with another terrible commissioner.
Yeah.
Freaking Manfred.
Rob Manfred.
Jesus Christ. Terrible commissioner. Anyway, yeah, it's just like, I feel like the regular season of 162 games should really be cut down.
Yeah.
By like 10 games. Maybe only 10. Nothing crazy. I'm not saying cut it down in half or cut it down to 60. Maybe cut it down to 10 so that way we could have a best of 3 wildcard game and then a best of 7 divisional series, best of 7 championship series, and best of 7 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
It would just make sense.
Yeah.
If the playoffs are so important and such high stakes, then you got to go 7 games for every series, not just the championship and World Series. But I don't know. Leave it up to a commissioner to figure out. Maybe when they go on strike or when they go on lockout.
I saw that Jeff Passan a couple days ago. He somewhat predicting there might be a lockout happening. So.
Oh man. We'll get into that. Let's talk about. Do you want to talk more about the NLDS or the NLCS?
Oh man.
Do you want to talk about good vibes or bad vibes?
I don't know, man. I mean, we did talk about the NLDS already.
Pretty much how it ended and that whole series, man, right?
Yeah, that was it.
What was your takeaway from the series, like as a whole, the way they played each other?
Man, I mean, I felt like both teams were pretty fearless towards each other. Again, going into that game 5, it felt like it could have been anybody's game. I did not want to see the Dodgers lose to the rival like that. And I think, it was just so weird, right? To have a series between two teams who had pretty much the same record. And they're both battling to meet a team that had a worse record than either of them. But, man, so many great moments. I think one of the things that just stood out to me is just like the home field and how different it felt for both teams.
Yeah.
Like you really felt the fans, the Beat LA chants. You know what I mean? All that stuff was it was such a well-fueled series. Like it felt like that should have been the NLCS. But again, due to records and due to the way the rules work, they had to meet each other sooner,
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of this, it really should be based on records, is the seeding, right?
Yeah.
Not divisions, but you got to protect division winners and give them home field and what have you. But I mean, this series, it's just, I don't want to make excuses for the Dodgers, but I kind of will. That first game in San Francisco, the 4-0 loss makes total sense, right? Giants are hot. Dodgers played a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
You kind of give that, you don't give it away, but it makes sense why the Giants would win it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. And plus, the kid from the Giants had an amazing game.
Yeah.
Webb.
Yeah.
And so it's great game for the Giants. Great first win. Then Dodgers come back and win 9-2 on that game too. Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel like, this is the Dodgers. This is the real Dodger team. They're going to show up now. They got home field for the rest of the series. They're going to definitely win those 2 at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
And then when they lost 1-0 in game 3, it's I was immediately like, this is, they let what is the kid? The guy who was with the Dodgers prior. I forget his name now. It escapes me at the moment, but he pitched for the Giants on Alex Wood. Alex Wood. And it's like you're not gonna score any runs off of Alex Wood. They're gonna only like that's who's gonna shut you down.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it, and it's like, come on, Dodgers.
Yeah.
So I was just really distraught they could not score one. And then Scherzer had a great game too.
Yeah.
They wasted a good Scherzer start.
Yeah, exactly.
So
on
that game 3,
I think that was a lot of the frustrations we had in the group chat was the Dodgers offense just not showing up in a lot of these games for this series. And if only the offense showed up, this would be a way better, this would just make it so much easier because the pitching did whatever it could. And I think that's why we alluded to in the beginning about the pitching kind of already wearing down. And it's because they really picked up the slack on their end. And it just felt like the bats just did not. And that was the continuing frustration with the team is these bats are a lot better than they're being seen right now, and for whatever reason, they're not showing up.
Yeah, and that's how you know with those their 2 losses in this series were both shutouts. Like they got shut out both times, and those were their 2 losses. So if you could keep the Dodgers offense quiet, you're gonna win the game. It was pretty much that's what we were seeing in the series, and obviously that game 5. My God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could have the heart to rewatch it, even knowing what the outcome's gonna be. I don't know, Donald. You're gonna rewatch it.
Yeah. It was nerve wracking, right? Because the first 5 innings nobody scored, and you're just like, yo, like, what is this gonna come down to? 5 innings in and no one's scoring, and then obviously then the Giants Dodgers score in the 6th inning. And you're just like, wow, no one's pulling away from each other. It's like they're both grappling to each other and not letting go. Like no one's letting go of their grip. And then it wasn't until the 9th inning when the Dodgers scored again, scored a run, and then the check swing at the end to end the whole series. That's kind of what had to happen. So.
I know, and the whole end, like you bring up real quick, bringing up the analytics again. Like, dude, he was gonna strike out anyway, right? Like, come on.
That's what everybody was saying, that the count was against. I forgot who was at bat, but it was against the Giants guy that was at bat, and it was like 0-2 or something like that. They were like, he would have just gotten a 1 ball, and then the next one probably would have been a strike, because they were saying Scherzer was already feeling it. And then, or at worst case, it probably would just been like a pop fly or something. But yeah, it was interesting how analytically people are like, yeah, like then the count was against the hitter. So
yeah, that's what I think. It would have happened either way. But then the counter argument by all these Giants fans is like, they've won so many games coming back in the 9th inning, and it's like, well, that was the regular season.
Yeah, I forgot who their super sub was. They have a super sub on that team that usually they throw him in the like 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and he usually comes in clutch as a hitter. And I guess
Solano? Is it Solano?
I think so.
Dickerson?
And I guess
Solano,
he ended up like going down on strikes or something. So it was like it went for nothing. So.
Oh, it was Austin Slater.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. I remember. I know there's one of them that's like he comes in and is supposed to switch, at least as a pinch hitter, supposed to,
Yeah. He ain't no Kike, that's for sure.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
All right. Well, see, those are all great memories, riding high. But let's be honest. Even the wild card game, the 5-game NLDS, the Dodgers were still stumbling into that NLCS.
Yeah.
And yes, I know I sound like I'm making excuses. The Braves were also shorthanded too, missing a big superstar. Hey, heck, going back to the Giants series, we didn't have Muncy, and they kept bringing up the fact that the Giants didn't have Brandon Belt.
Yeah.
So this is all part of baseball. Yes, I know. I'm not, once again, not trying to make excuses for the Dodgers, but you also got to realize they were burning out those arms, and that was the biggest reason why I think the Dodgers lost this NLCS. It was those arms.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, we point to the offense being hit or miss, which it is.
Yeah.
But it was really the arms that were a big issue going into this NLCS. Game 1, I mean, close game, winnable game for the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Like that should have been their first.
Yep.
And both games in Atlanta were lost by 1 run.
Yeah.
But once again, that's baseball, right? That's baseball. You lose the 2 games in Atlanta, and you win the first game back at Dodger Stadium, right? You win game 3 at Dodger Stadium, another 1-run game, win 6-5. But then game 4, you give up 9 runs to the Braves. 9 runs with Julio Urias coming in late, or staying in probably for 5 innings, just getting roped, right? I mean, man, and that's tough. Because that's home. That's Urias, who's been the MVP, but MVP, a Cy Young candidate, I think.
Yeah.
So, man, it's Braves. Braves had them on that game, and then the Dodgers come back and win 11-2. Right? Remember that game? At game 5, I totally thought, no, wait, going back to game 3, that's right. The Dodgers were losing that game. And it looked like they were going to go down 3-0 at home. So that's right. I remember watching that game and saying, you know what? Take off the bandage. We're going to lose this series. Just hurry up and end it for me. I don't want any more of this. And when they come back to win and make the series 2-1, I'm back in it and back invested. And then they lose they lose again that 9-2 series.
Yeah.
And then they lose that game 9-2. And then they come back and win 11-2. And this is just indicative of what it's been like as a Dodger fan this whole year.
Yeah.
It's my entire life, Donald.
Yeah.
Pulling on my heartstrings. Why? Why do they do this to us, Donald?
Oh, man. It's just, I don't know. It's like, I feel like, they're a better team. The roster's stacked. We were saying that in the beginning. This is a stacked team. Like, these are all competent guys. But man, dude, I don't want to blame like Dave Roberts because I feel like that's such a cliche thing. And I know that's what a lot of fans are kind of saying, like, oh, let's just like not re-sign Roberts or all that. I mean, did he make some mistakes?
Roberts out.
Yeah, Roberts out. Like, did he make some mistakes in, how he managed the pitching and the fact that we had like way more bullpen games than we thought were going to happen, you know what I mean? And different guys being called up to start at the last, kind of felt like a last minute thing, And yeah, it just, I don't know, it just had all the makings of like, dude, we're so much better than this. And I don't get why we can't just put that out there. And it just felt like, you're looking forward to it as a fan. You put your hat on, you got your gear on, it's a game day. And then you hear all this news about little things here and there that are happening. This guy's starting instead of that guy. And then you start figuring out, okay, like, why are we going into these games, like, kind of on this, like, we're standing on one leg, when that's not the kind of roster we have. We have a roster that can produce. And, yeah, it's always a letdown. It's always a letdown because the fact of the matter is we're a playoff team for sure. It's not like we're a bunch of scrubs still rebuilding,
I felt like a big part of the issue, was the pitching, the lack of depth in solid starters.
Yeah.
Right. We only had 3 starters.
Yeah.
At that point, we only had Scherzer, Buehler, and Urias, and that was it. And if you would have got any of those wins, like the Braves did in that Game 4, then you kind of could take a series at that point.
Yeah.
And if you get that, and if you're able to make them waste a good start and just eat up into the bullpen, because Dodgers bullpen was pretty solid.
Yeah.
And it was just the starting pitching giving up runs a little bit too much because, as Scherzer even said, his arm was tired. And then you have Buehler having to go on short rest.
Yeah.
So as stacked as this team was, and as prepared for the playoffs as they were, I don't think they were prepared to go without rest. And there's no way to train for that.
They definitely,
right? Like, I'm not. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they definitely underestimated. They definitely underestimated the Atlanta Braves hitting.
Mm-hmm. Rosario, man, was ridiculous in that series.
Yeah,
that NLCS, he was a freaking machine.
Yeah,
like I felt like celebrating every time they made an out on him.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot believe he made an out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous. You expected him to get a hit every time he went up there, if not a home run.
Yeah.
So it was just every single time. So he definitely impressed me, and I'm sure impressed a lot of baseball fans around the country who hadn't seen him yet. And it's just, all we can do as Dodger fans really is not make excuses, because the Dodgers lost to a really good Atlanta Braves team. We could point fingers if you want. Yeah. Like you said, not to be the cliche, it was Dave Roberts, because I'm sure he and Andrew Freeman come up with the plan for who they're going to start.
Yeah.
Right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's who's pulling the strings too. And you got to put some blame there too.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I mean, the starting pitching to win a 7-game series now from the NLDS all the way through the World Series with only a 3-man pitching rotation, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I don't understand, though, why they didn't give Gonsolin a Game 4, throw him into the rotation at some point.
Yeah.
You have to let him go long. not even a David Price throwing him out there for long starts, but letting those bullpen starts. That was a thing that weirded me out too. That game 5 in the in the NLDS where they had, what was it? Not Blake Trinan, the other kid, the other closer, Knable. Was it Knable who started game 5?
Knable, yeah.
Yeah, and then they got happy. They got very excited with, let's keep throwing the relievers in there for the 4th game, for the for the bullpen game. Like, no, that worked once.
Yeah,
it worked once.
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
Man. So
that's what happened, and it felt weird when I saw that there was more than one bullpen game happening, and it was now part of the plan, is to like throw Knable on to like start, and it was just like, what the heck is going on? Like, but it was, I mean, I know that, what's his name? Urias coming in on the 8th inning on one of the games was like a bad look.
Ugh.
I think it was like, I think it was game 2 or something like that, where he came in. I think it was the one that Scherzer started, for the Braves, game 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Buehler started game 1 because Scherzer said he had a tired arm. So right. Scherzer started game 2, and then he threw in Urias to be for like an inning, and it was kind of weird to see that. We're like, why did you throw him in there? But yeah, man, it was just a lot of really, really weird management, a lot of weird pieces being thrown at different times that, as fans, if you follow the whole team through the season, you know the pattern that should be followed. There's like a pattern, and the pattern was being thrown off. And then, then I think as the series was going on and deeper, like all of a sudden you started seeing analytical stuff taking over, sabermetrics taking over. And I felt like all that stuff wasn't even a factor when they were playing against the Giants. And that's where you realize, oh, shoot. And then that's when I felt like, oh, damn, this team's on fumes. Like, they don't have it. They just don't have it. And now it's just for the Atlanta for them to take it. So it was kind of weird to see, like, around game 3-4-ish, I want to say, is where I felt like, oh man, like this might be it. Like we just gotta, like, as long as the Dodgers don't embarrass themselves, I think it'll be whatever. But even if they went to the World Series against
Houston,
against an Astros team that looked like they really turned it around on Boston so quickly and took them out so convincingly, it was like, dude, I think we'd be super hobbling into the World Series.
I completely agree with you. You are so right, man. And I remember around the same like you. Game 5 kind of sparked a little bit more like, oh, maybe they'll, like, it sparked mild hope because I knew they were going to take 2. I was hopeful they could have taken those 2 in Atlanta if they would have had Scherzer, Buehler the way it was intended.
Yeah.
But when Scherzer said he wasn't able to go and they had to go Buehler on short rest, I'm like, they're not going to take this game. And I'd rather they lose to Atlanta than lose to the Astros again in the World Series. And this time the Astros fans would have been like, see, we're a legit team. Yeah. Don't talk all that smack.
That would have been the narrative.
2017
sure.
World Series.
That would have been the narrative. So it would have been like,
absolutely.
Forget the 2017 run. Now focus on this one and how we did it in a very legitimate way. And that's what I was thinking of too, like the whole narrative of the whole thing. But again, not to say that's the reason why I would have wanted them not to make it, but it just felt like that was a huge part of why I think that at the end of the day, I don't think the Dodgers were enough. They were. It was just a bad spot for them. Injuries and all just eventually crept up, and not that the injuries were happening, but it started becoming more and more glaring. Not having Kershaw, not having Muncy at bat, you know what I mean? Things like that were just already, and then Turner got hurt as well, and it just felt like, the wheels are coming off. So yeah,
you're right. Justin Turner got injured like game 5, I want to say, of this NLCS.
Yeah, it was the last. It was not the elimination game. It was the game before that, and then the elimination game was the next one.
But I'll be honest, in this NLCS and NLDS, both Turners, Justin Turner and Trey Turner, were non-factors. And that's how you lose series as well. So we point to injuries, but we also got to look at clutch performances, and all you had was Taylor, Bellinger, Will Smith once in a while coming through, offense Pollock coming through. Those were the only, bats in the lineup being consistent. Trey Turner, Justin Turner were easy outs, man. And it's just like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Mookie Betts was almost sort of a run factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't the Mookie Betts of last year's postseason.
No.
Of from the postseason from last year. So, I mean, it's easy really to look at injuries and the lack of rotation, but it was also timely, consistent hitting from every bat in the lineup. You don't expect everybody to be clicking 100% every game, but when somebody's off, you want somebody to pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be off every night the way both Turners were and the way Mookie Betts was most nights.
Yeah.
So it's that those were big glaring holes too that we have to look at, and of course that's where we saw the need for Max Muncy even more because they needed him out there for sure. So that's the way the season ended. Now we're in the off season, right?
Yeah.
And well, in that World Series, we got to give props like we did earlier to the Atlanta Braves over the Houston cheating Astros, and so they won in 6 games. Huge series for them, and they're a really good baseball team. So we got to give props to the Atlanta Braves. Congratulations, 2021 World Series champions. Congratulations, man. Enjoy it. And so now we got to look to how the Dodgers can rebuild, redesign, reclaim. And how do they do it, Donald?
I mean, you gotta obviously the pitching is something they're really good at. So I'm not really worried so much about the pitching. For some reason, the organization can find arms, or they have great arms in the farm. The bullpen, I don't think is a big problem for me. I think for the most part, it's just a lot of these positions in terms of like just bats, consistent bats, and then like, are they going to stick to the same strategy they've been hitting at where it's just swinging for the fences, or are they going to want to start adopting some small ball? Like, because they can do the small ball thing, but it feels like it's not their forte. It's not what they would want to do. They definitely want to. Bellinger and all that. They love the belly bombs. I mean, I like Mookie's hitting. I wish Mookie was the hitting coach for this whole roster because he's the only one that knows like how to hit smartly, consistently. And I don't know, but I feel like, now that you mentioned Trey Turner, a lot of people say they don't like the fact that he didn't show up in the postseason. But I'm not too bothered by that. I feel like if you got a good shortstop that is a good regular season shortstop, you take that guy. So I don't know what the situation is right now within Seager and the Dodgers, like how much interest there is. I think this afternoon I read that Yankees are also interested in Seager as well.
Yes.
So obviously these are going to be things that are going to be discussed in free agency, and are the Dodgers willing to kind of pony up for Seager? And if not, do they, do they entice Trey Turner as well? I believe he's also a free agent. I believe. I don't think he's on contract.
No, Trey Turner's still under contract.
Okay, then. So obviously you have someone there, but obviously if you could get Seager, you'd want to keep him because he's someone that can come through. I feel like there's a couple of guys that I just know this was just a bad season, but I don't think this is who they are. You know what I mean? I don't think this is who Mookie really was. His defense was clutch. I mean, you can't, you know what I mean? So that was great. But then I think about some of the older cats like Kershaw and Justin Turner. And I mean, are they willing to take hometown discounts? Because they are older, man, and it's in any sport, it's a young man's game, and it's like I know that Kershaw, they were saying that I guess he's gonna weigh in his options with his family. If he wants to come back, that'd be awesome. I'd love for him to be like a Dodger lifer, the way Kobe was for the Lakers, just like a guy that only played for one team and retired there. But I mean, it is what it is with what he wants to do. And And then I don't know, everybody else. I kind of feel like the Dodgers have a lot of guys still on contract. I think just the shortstop position, trying to figure that out. Maybe get a better second baseman if there is something out there. But
you don't like Gavin Lux?
I mean, he was good. And that was the other thing too with the postseason is that like I thought it was interesting that he wasn't in that towards the end of this Brave series after
exactly
a lot of talk from the media about how great he was hitting and everything. But I don't know, they just weren't. I don't know. Maybe Dave Rogers saw something, so that was weird.
That's very interesting.
But I like Evan Lux. I feel like I think for the most part, I'm more worried about the depth of the team. I think that's what it is for me. It's not so much the starters; it's the depth. Like if someone gets hurt, can someone come in and do a good job? Do as good of a job. Because it does suck when your guys are hurt, like Mookie and Bellinger being hurt, and then there being a big drop off in the offense. So that's the thing that really concerns me. But like I said, the pitching, I will leave that up to the front office because I think they're really good at that. So I mean, just don't sign like a Bauer again because like, come on, guys, like you gotta start vetting the social medias with these guys as well now.
I mean,
something you have to do, man. Like
I don't get how something wasn't in the contract with Bauer for some kind of morality clause, something.
He opted
right?
in.
You had to because he was already on social media with very just bad takes and just being a bully, cyberbully, like we talked about before. And of course, it's a huge leap and a jump from being a cyberbully to being an alleged rapist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a big leap.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure the Dodgers couldn't have foreseen nobody could have foreseen anything like this, right? So you just kind of hope they would have put something in the contract because one thing's for sure, a legal battle is coming.
Oh, yeah.
The Dodgers don't want anything to do with him, but they have to activate him. And just seeing him on the Dodger roster right now, on an active roster, is disgusting. And I hate seeing that. But there's no way he suits up again for Dodger Blue. There's no way. And all these Dodger fans on social media who are like free Bauer and all that are fucking disgusting to me, man. I can't. It shames. It makes me feel ashamed to be a Dodger fan.
Yeah.
That they are like, oh yeah, free Bauer, he didn't do anything. Like, dude, come on. He may have not been convicted of a crime for anything yet because it's so hard to prove something like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, just look at our great legal system, what's going on in let's just to prove something is very difficult, right? But we know her injuries were that of something that you don't consent to.
Yeah.
No matter what other consent proof you have, you don't consent to injuries like that. It's like, oh well, they consented to be murdered. Like, well, they got consent, then I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, murder is a far stretch because you could actually prove that somebody's dead, but proving that other thing, it's very difficult. But going back to Bauer, man, the money that's going to potentially get freed up is important. The money that's going to get bought out is important because he's not going to go out without getting paid, which is gross. But we're going to have to either pay him to leave or we're going to find a good legal loophole to free up that money on the books.
Yeah.
Either way, he's not wearing Dodger blue. So get that out of your head right now. And if he does wear Dodger blue, this is where I said, I'm going to renounce the team. I'm not going to be a Dodger fan anymore. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be just straight up baseball talk from now on. And I'll talk about that LA team. I won't even call them the Dodgers organization anymore. But I know there's no way it will come.
LA Angels of Anaheim.
There's no way. Yeah, I'm gonna go be an Angels fan with Noah Syndergaard down there in LA of Anaheim. Big acquisition there for the Angels, man. Picking up Noah Syndergaard, by the way.
Oh, did they?
Caught that? Picked them up 1 year deal, $21 million.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've been falling asleep on the whole offseason thing. I don't know.
I mean, the Dodgers picked up, as you know, they picked up
right. Former Yankee,
former Angel, and former Yankee. What's his name now? Andrew Heaney.
Yeah.
Heaney.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that was a 1 year, $8.5 million deal.
Yeah.
So it feels like a lot of money to pay for somebody who may be a spot starter, maybe even be a long closer because he does not put up good numbers. And the poor guy is like, oh, I'm better than my numbers reflect. Of course. I'm sure that's always a bad selling point. But obviously the Dodgers see something in him to take a chance on him. So So it'll be interesting. To your point, Donald, the depth. They are going to have to sign a lot of players like Andrew Heaney, who we've never heard of.
Yeah.
Who were like, oh, this guy was good about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like he's been slumping now.
I'll watch the
Why
Yankees
are they wasting so much money on him?
Yeah, exactly.
But they have to. Those are the players they're going to have to sign because, in all honesty, if and when Chris Taylor or Corey Seager leave the Dodgers, that is going to be a huge hurt to the lineup.
Oh yeah,
right. Like, how do you replace those bats?
Yeah,
I've seen them talk about potentially getting Carlos Correa.
I saw that. Yeah,
and
was it Bill Plaschke that wrote that or something like
that? Plaschke wrote that. And it starts as buzz, obviously, when Plaschke writes that.
Yeah.
And then supposedly another article comes out later saying that, oh, yeah, there's actually interest from the Dodgers front office. Is there, though?
Nah.
Is there, though? And Plaschke went on the radio, AM 570, and said that, if the players are able to get along with him, then the fans will eventually come around, too. Yeah, that's a good point. Are we forgetting the Ballinger Carlos Correa drama, dude?
Yeah.
Are we forgetting that?
Yeah, there's beef.
Plaschke, come on.
Yeah. I mean,
they had some real beef.
I think for the most part, people would want to see, at least Dodger fans would want to see at least an apology from him. Like maybe something a little bit more personal. Like, hey guys, I want to come in, I want to help you guys, and I'm just really, really sorry for everything that happened, and please forgive me personally, something like that.
He needs to go to every single one of us,
exactly,
and buy us lunch or something, right?
I don't know, because I think people are gonna always think about that, I mean, at some point it's gonna roll over, and we're gonna forget that these guys did that, and especially for as long as they're Astros, because now that Springer's on a different team or whatever, I think we just stop talking about him and stuff, and it's kind of interesting how that happens, but it happens. So,
because Springer's in Toronto now. Dodgers rarely ever played Toronto, but I bet if the Blue Jays came to Dodger Stadium, then we're gonna get some boo birds for Springer.
Yeah,
for sure.
True. That's true.
So. I mean, I just think it's one of those things. And I think if Carlos Correa wants to come to LA, he should go to LA of Anaheim. I don't want him on my team. But to your point, once again, Donald being the voice of reason here, if he issues some kind of apology, something sincere, right? None of this BS explanation about talking about every game, why there's no way they could have cheated because this and this happened.
Yeah.
That's... You're going over the top with your explanation, and only time people go over the top with an explanation is because they're covering up a lie.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous, dude. I don't believe any of what you're telling me. So if he does get signed with the Dodgers, it would be so freaking weird.
Yeah.
It would be so weird to see that happen. But if the Dodgers end up losing a Corey Seager and a Chris Taylor, then we're probably that's gonna be the nuclear option. Right?
Yeah, feels like it.
Picking up a Carlos Correa.
Yeah, because I mean, at that point, you are only thinking about what bats can you get, and now you need bats, and you need consistent bats, and that's now you're gonna really start be looking at like batting averages more than you are like RBIs and all that other stuff. So it's just one of those things where they're gonna have to go desperate at, the way they got Scherzer in the middle of the season because of Bauer.
Yeah,
it was a desperate move, There was no need for Scherzer if everything else was running smooth, but yeah.
And the reason why the Dodgers signed Bauer in the offseason because of everything San Diego was doing in the offseason. Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, like all those big acquisitions the Padres were making.
Yeah.
It was a total knee-jerk reaction why the Dodgers went after Bauer. Yeah. It was they had to keep up.
Yeah.
It was an arms race. Yeah, this is what happens when keeping it real goes wrong right here, Dodgers. This is what happens.
Yeah.
You had to keep up, and it went terribly sideways. So The odds on the World Series, Donald, as you know, still have the Dodgers as favored to win the World Series for some weird reason. The Atlanta Braves number 2 to repeat, which is interesting.
Interesting.
We don't know if they're actually going to be able to re-sign Freddie Freeman, who's a big free agent now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have some reinforcements. Who's that guy from the Braves? I want to say Acuna, not Acuna. Is it Acuna?
Ronald Acuna Jr.
There you go. Yes. So, of course, you'll have some help there, and the Dodgers winning the World Series next year. Donald, yes or no?
I want to say yes.
It's November. It's November 2021. Do the Dodgers win the 2022 World Series?
I want to say yes.
Nice.
I want to say yes. I want to believe in the Dodgers.
D-Bot is all in on our Dodgers.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, D-Bot.
Yeah,
you say yes. Say why. You say yes. Why?
I feel yes because I feel like this team has a good enough roster. I think they have a great starting roster. I think they just are lacking some depth, and that's something that you can find. You don't need to. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but they can get it. I mean, look at how stacked San Diego was, or however they were, and it didn't even work out. So obviously the Dodgers are not that. So I mean, I just think like they got it. They just got to have better depth. And then the bullpen just being super strong, and hopefully the bullpen guys just love being in the bullpen, because I think the issue with bullpens always is that one of them or two of them or whatever end up wanting to be a starter somewhere, so then they end up leaving because they'd rather be a starter at a different club, and that kind of sucks. So I think that what makes a great team is everybody knowing their role, and
and shutting their mouth.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say the Rock. I thought you were gonna say
the Rock. Which is funny because I kind of felt in my head like, oh, I know this is a Rock right here. No, your role is shut your mouth. That's ideally what you need to do to win, actually. But they say that like everybody knowing their role in whether they're a starter, where they're coming off the bench or whatever, like you just know it. That's what you're supposed to do, and it's not to be like egotistical or anything like that, and not having any ego involved. So yeah. We'll see what happens. But yeah, hoping I do see the Dodgers going to the World Series for sure.
I mean, I agree with like 90% of what you just said, 95% of what you just said. I think it's going to be great. Their starting pitching should be better with Dustin May back. They're a healthy May, Bueller, Urias, and fourth starter is going to have to be figured out somewhere. Fourth and fifth starter are going to have to be figured out. Hopefully Kershaw comes back for his last year or two, and their closer will now be somebody who's more worthy of closing, like Blake Trinan.
Oh, that's right. We didn't even get to Jensen. Yeah, he's also on his...
Jensen's probably going to be gone,
he's
too.
Probably going to be gone. Yeah, man, I like Ratterall. I like all these other guys trying in. They're I could go with either of those guys,
Isn't that weird? Like, looking once again to our division, and the Giants just lost their team captain for so many years. Buster Posey retired. Cries. Giants fans crying. All that good stuff. Dodger fans, who would we cry when they retired from us? Like, I guess the closest thing to like that type of player like Posey would be Clayton Kershaw, right?
Yeah.
And if he decides to go to Texas, it's going to suck. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel awful. Like you said, I do want Kershaw to end his career in the Dodger jersey, just the way Kobe played his entire career in the Laker jersey. I would love for that to happen if that was my choice.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to overspend for Kershaw. No. I know we got so many question marks all over the place. And at the end of the day, if that's who we're going to have to cut loose, that would suck. But oh well. I need us to really focus on getting some big bats that we're going to be missing.
Yeah.
And then with Jensen, like he's like the second 10-year longest Dodger as well.
Yeah.
And it's like right behind Kershaw as being with the team. But if he does go, I'm going to be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like now I could kind of relax in the ninth inning now. But he'd be like very much like a roller coaster ride, right? You really did not know what you're going to get with him. Like, he's going to be 1, 2, 3 inning. Go crap. he figured it out. The next game, it's 4 walks in a row. Like, what the F, Jensen?
It felt like the media was were really rooting that he would come back and kind of get his groove back, because I think a lot of them didn't like having a kind of crap on him whenever he did terrible. But yet you go to like Dodger Twitter and it was like a free for all on crapping on him, and I was like, well, that sucks, because you had all these journalists that were like, yeah, it's just mechanics or something, or he'll get a bounce back. Like, they were really rooting for him, you could tell. And I was just in either or. I was indifferent about it, really. But like you, I think if it was if Trinan takes over, or if Gratterall takes over, I would be like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, but yeah, I wouldn't feel too bad. So I don't know what that says about me, but yeah.
I know. What does it say about us? Like, we are all over that Dodger Twitter, but remember, Twitter is a cesspool of hate, and we can't help but get rubbed off on us when really we shouldn't. Yeah. But we can't help
Burner
it.
Accounts
but
and all, dude.
When I see like Dodgers backstage, and I see like Jensen, like, and his personal life, he seems like such a nice dude and a sports nut, and like, man, this is like a cool guy. Yeah. Like, I root for him, but it's also, you cause me so much agita. Like, I can't take this anxiety that you're giving me. So I mean, it would suck. It's going to suck if he does end up leaving. Yeah. But it's probably that time. Yeah. For us to like kind of
exactly
try somebody else out.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
To answer my own question, I'm gonna say the Dodgers win the World Series next year. I'm gonna say I hope so.
Oh.
I'm not gonna say yes. I'm not gonna say no. I'm going to say I hope so, and they always give me the hope that kills me. The goddamn Dodgers always do this to me. They always get me to believe in them. They always get me to cheer for them, and they always let me down, except for last year. They always let me down, and I expect for them to let me down. Like, I wait for that other shoe to drop. I wait for them to get me so close to the sun just to come crashing down. Yeah. And last year was such an anomaly that I couldn't believe they actually did it. And of course, the other asshole fans were going to say that of course they did it. It was a COVID year or whatever. Yeah. But I don't care. To me, that was like it's a real title. I don't care what anybody else says. It's a real championship to me. And I'm happy I got to see it. Of course I have my World Series cap. I have it. So. I got my banner somewhere. I got it everywhere, bro. Dude. I got every piece of Dodgers World Champion memorabilia that I could get my hands on when all that went on sale.
Exactly.
And it's just to be so happy and proud that it happened. And if it ever happens again, I'd be happy again. But it's nothing like that 2021, because that's the first one that I actually remember. The 88 one, I was a little bit too young for it. I don't remember it. And the 2021 is special to me because that's the first one. The 2022 one's going to be nice and special too.
Nice.
That's right. I hope so. It's not a definitive yes, but I think the reason why, like I said, the pitch is going to be better. We got some healthy pitching that we're going to need, and the real question marks for me now is going to be the offense, who we end up keeping, and the bigger question mark, Donald, will we have a baseball season? Yeah. That's the real question mark. Will that happen? The lockout seems like a real possibility.
It does, dude. And if that happens, what are we looking at? Like, probably a late spring, summer start. If they start, if it ends, it'll be
another 60-game season.
It's gonna be a shortened season if the lockout happens. I'm talking about it might just be like 100 games. You know what I mean? Like, I could see easily like 40 to 60 games being gone during the lockout.
Yeah, definitely right. Like, spring training gone, like maybe starting somewhat in May, June, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Again.
That's going to be insane.
I mean, Jesus. I mean, and of course, that's where the Dodgers thrive. In the short seasons. Shorten the seasons already, too. That's what they should negotiate, man. Shorter seasons every time. Longer off seasons for these guys, man. They need time to heal.
They do.
These, dude, November, they got to get back in there in March, dude. Like, that's crazy.
That is insane.
I mean, but it's a child's game they're playing.
Yeah.
and they're getting paid millions of dollars. Who are we to complain? Get out there, right? I can't wait for this animosity to start on Twitter and everywhere. Oh, the players want too much. Well, the owners have too much. Get ready. That's going to be a lot for us to follow here next time on this episode of West Box Score. D-Bot, that's it for us this week. See ya.
Later.